Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. I walked into the chat with the boys. I came into moonshine talk, so if that gives you any reflection on how this episode
It was a
might
theoretical discussion on heritage
Either confirm
methods of
or
distillation.
deny that conversation
Contrasting it
took
with
place.
sunshine, because
Alexis, I just want to go on record by saying she can't keep a secret at all. Not at all.
I will
Wow.
call you out
Wow.
every time.
Wow.
To be fair, she did distill our conversation quite.
Yes, the distillation was very tight there. Bringing it, Brett. Brett's not going to waste any time. If Alexis is not, Brett's not. So, yeah. It's wintertime. We don't have time to waste. I mean, daylight's burning, people.
Right?
Let's tell all the secrets.
Yeah, it's pretty much
in the light
free
of day.
for all where I'm at. So
Yeah, I've got
that.
I got 18 hours of depression scheduled. Let's make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We penciled that in for this evening, starting around 4:45, 5 o'clock.
I don't know if you follow us on Instagram, you saw a picture of some red and blue lights on the some houseplants from our episode the other week. And if you haven't seen that, you should go look at it, because
you're dead to us.
Just imagine I am sitting beneath those lights and I'm like, maybe if I could just like photosynthesize, life would be okay.
Life would
I
be
would be okay if I was a plant.
If I
do photosynthesize. We've moved around the living room and in front of the patio, which is not a good spot for the plants because nobody can get in and out on the deck. We've kind of put chairs there. Well, all the pets now sit in the chairs, and it just cracks me up. The cat, the dog, they're just all gravitated, and they're just looking out the window like they've never looked out the window before. It's wintertime, and the sun is shining today, at least for now, here in Kentucky. They just look out the window. It's the cutest thing ever, but the weirdest, because they're like transfixed by that. They have a better access to the sun now. So it's like they're plants photosynthesizing their happiness. I can't say that word.
They're like solar storage, you got to get the warm.
Their battery. The cats are batteries for sure.
Yeah, you get that warm sun on your belly and it just, gets charged up.
It works for me. Works for me. A hammock.
Everyone just imagined Ray and Josh just like sitting in the sunlight, like soaking it up on their bellies.
Yes.
Using a laser pointer.
We're not soaking it up. We are charging up.
No, I'm just sitting there and one ear is turned the other way at all this.
Oh man.
It's good stuff. So wintertime.
Yeah, but what are we chatting about today, you guys?
I guess this episode's going to be a little different, isn't it? If this may make a little bit more sense to those that have joined us for other episodes, but maybe since the year's ending, it's a good time to do a little bit of self-reflection on our experiences up to this point with the podcast. Is that kind of what we're doing today? Or maybe I just made that up, which is quite possible.
I mean, maybe some other elements of vaguely horticulture related life events and stuff could factor in as well. If that's
sure, absolutely. All the
For those of you listening on Spotify, I know that you love Taylor Swift because your top music genre was pop, which means pop princess Taylor Swift. So throwing out that data to you today.
I don't know that. Maybe it's dark Taylor Swift. It could be that too, Alexis.
I was Taylor Swift for Halloween.
Okay. Yes, you were. Forgot about that.
Acknowledged.
I just had to point that out.
Shout out Tyler Kelsey.
Tyler Kelsey. Yes.
Yeah. So I was looking through. Ray sent out our Wrapped. Everybody's done their Wrapped Spotify, and I don't listen to Spotify apparently. So it's very hard to get Spotify at my house for some reason. But it was telling us who of our people who listen on Spotify, what else they listen to, and their top genres were pop, rock, contemporary country. So I guess they're listening to, I don't know. I just said Taylor Swift because who else would you be listening to in the pop category besides T Swift?
That's not
Michael
a fair
Jackson.
Question. Maybe
King of Pop.
The Police. People that are no longer together.
Sting.
People who are
sure.
somewhat dead, or dead to us.
Maybe that by your you can buy myself flowers. That's a pop song.
It's like the number one song.
It's a marketing slogan and a pop song.
Exactly.
Apparently,
if you're a flower
Alexis.
farmer, it's a marketing slogan. Thank you, Miley.
I
Shout out.
I have seen that on a lot of, floral advertisements, kinda the jingle if there's some kind of, rights problem with playing that song, but at least the jingle, so yeah. But the data behind all of that, the Wrapped, when I looked at that, we're on multiple platforms. Those of you guys that listen know that you may be on Google, you may be on Spotify or Apple or one of the other RSS feeds. We're on a lot of different platforms, like a lot of podcasts are. And from at different times, we've looked at the metrics, and it's been one of the things that we've discussed about growing the podcast. But we're also, very humbled and thankful that we apparently have listeners outside of our local communities. We have listeners that are not just our friends, and it's the nature of the podcasting platforms that we have listeners all over the place. And it's interesting to me when I go back and look and see where folks are listening from. Just very thankful because this has been an interesting year where we've basically pulled off. We thought we would do a trial run for a few weeks, or at least in my head, do a trial run to see if we could keep up with it. A weekly podcast, which was for me kind of intimidating. Doing a weekly podcast was something new in this format for me, but we've managed to do it. I don't know what episode are we on, 30, 37, 38 episodes. We're still fairly young. The tea is hitting, the caffeine tea. My words are getting on top of each
That
other.
that
But
1800s is hitting.
yes, the
March
accumulation
11th.
of time weighs heavy upon my soul in the darkness that
March
is
11th
infinity.
was the
Yes.
release date of the first podcast. March 11th, 2023.
Was that it? Yeah. Time
Wow.
has flown by, and we have managed, I think, for the most part, to have. There might have been one week we had a glitch or a skip, but
It
for the
was,
most
it was
part,
like
we've been able to
three-fourths of
to,
us.
to keep up with the weekly. Yeah.
Three-fourths of us had COVID.
Yes, there was a lot of COVID involved. That was a
Don't
tough
say
week,
the
and there was no
name.
It was
yeah,
tough.
don't say that.
Yeah,
But
I
we
think
were able to keep up with it. I mean,
for
I'm surprised.
for me, 2023 felt like the first totally back to something approaching normal year, like on the
Hmm.
whole year.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not to say that we didn't go back to doing things typically in 2022, but it was just that I don't know, from the jump. But we my own 2023 started out well. I guess it started out okay, but 2022 ended. We had like a pretty bad car accident, and the whole first part of the year was kind of a blur. And then you all talked me into a podcast while I was still in the middle of that, and I've been committed to it ever since. Apparently, is been my experience. So for me, 2023 has been pretty good from that start. Started the bar low and kind of went in a positive direction. But we did in that first part of the year, we had done through the SARE stuff that we do, the farm transition series of farm transition outreach workshop things. And that was a really interesting way to start the year and start thinking about things a little bit differently. Do you all have any kind of programmatic highlights from stuff that you've done this year, either with the podcast or in otherwise?
But not really for me, not really. I mean, there's been some program highlights, specific to topic, but more than anything, and it goes back to COVID. I mean, I know that's been a while back, but it's still fresh on my mind. It was sort of a global thing, COVID was, and in extension, we talk a lot about trying to get back to normal, trying to rebuild groups, trying to rebuild community, and trying to manage all the different ways that we deliver programming, which is kind of for me what led me working with you guys that are on here and myself investing efforts into this thing. It's just another way to deliver programming. So that's sort of been a highlight to me. I mean, during COVID, obviously, we were doing a lot of things, and Brett, you guys were doing, I know, a tremendous amount of things, program delivery online, but really made me kind of step back. And I'm still rethinking what is community programming. Obviously, there's the premium community programming we as agents are involved with. That's the face to face stuff. But there's all these different ways of delivering programming, whether it's a video that's recorded and then shown later, or webinars or things like podcasting. But that's been the highlight of my 2023, I guess, is the diversification of kind of delivery methods for me.
How?
That and it's kind of all started with COVID. But if I'm trying to find a silver lining here, guys. I'm trying to find the lemonade from lemons. It's
Yeah, no.
the fact that I'm still rethinking what is a community program for us in extension, because that's kind of what we do. We do non-formal education, and that's been a highlight for me. The podcast is part of that. It's part of my efforts to
Mm,
try to branch out a little bit.
hmm.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I mean that kind of that diversity of kind of delivery and examining that coming in, as Brett said, kind of like sort of a first year back to normaling in a way that started to feel more normal to me. I mean, COVID was just so kind of disruptive to how we do things in our day to day, but also like our outreach and, how much in person programming was. One of the things that stood out to me for this year was putting together this kind of comprehensive checklist at the end of a multi year project for distributing information for sustainability practices in agriculture. And kind of a lot of that program delivery was done with remote, like kind of done remotely with remote delivery in mind. And, this year was the year that it was kind of all summarized into one big document. And I remember kind of dragging and pulling all that stuff together over the previous 2 years, and how much of it was remote delivered material, but now is in this kind of handheld and put together publication on sustainability practices. Yeah, and that is how I would sum up kind of 2023 in a lot of ways, is kind of this transition, this having this collection of remote developed material and moving back into some more novel ways of delivering it to people, like the podcast.
And I believe COVID, to kind of speak a little bit more to that point, Josh, do you guys feel that having gone through such a global event and having to digest, the way we receive information, just let's say just consumers in general, that's changed what kind of people's needs or their expectations for getting information? I've seen that a little bit in my local community, is that we had some people that may have had, let's say, limited transportation. They really enjoyed, receiving some of the programs that we offered. They really appreciated us reaching out on certain ways, in certain ways. And they still want that, even though we're trying to transition back into what we call normal, which is more in person. So that's created this balancing act of how do you do that? I mean, you have a pot of information like you were talking about, Josh, but how do you deploy that? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously the answer is all the ways, but all the ways, sometimes there's not enough time for all the ways. And we're still trying to, morph into what we need to be, as educators or, workers in our field, getting information out. And I still feel that. So it sounds like a big project, Josh, that's kind of at a point.
Yeah, I mean, it concluded midway through the year, but it was a collection of all activity that had happened over the previous 2 years.
Mhm.
um, and just to kind of see it all there, and remember how there was a time where everything was being delivered remotely, and
Yes.
now a lot of things are. And it kind of gives us the opportunity to think about, when we're delivering things, is this something that could also be recorded and delivered? Which I would say that's become more of a standard now. Is when we put something together, there's kind of a the thought is in the room, like, can we record this and also make this available for the
Yeah.
future, or just for people who can't make it here on time for this event.
And podcasting makes me think of that. It's like you do something great. You do an in-person program that was great. It makes you think, oh, how could I capture that so that we can have that in the future that extends my reach, but also make doubles my effort. You capture one great program and then you have that recorded. So this year has also been that for me. It's how can I record things so that I have it for later if I want to use it for
Hmm.
later. Because if you do one great program, I still love doing in-person programming. I'll just say it. I love that. I think that's a premium way of delivering programs face to face. And some of the work we do as field agents, we have to do it one-on-one or in small groups. And that's the nature of what we do. But I love making an effort and then capturing that digitally so that I could have it for later to either use it in parts or use it as a whole program that I just, push out later. I do like that. Been thinking a lot about that too. And podcasts are one of those things where we can, anybody can go back and listen to any one of the 30 some odd programs that we've done so far. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I
It
think
captures the effort a little bit better.
I think for me the effect of the COVID era was, yes, it did press fast forward on a lot of technology and technological adoption, particularly by people who previously had avoided it or resisted it or whatever. And I mean that includes things like digital commerce, e-commerce and accepting credit card payments and touchless and pre-orders and all that kind of stuff in the marketing side, but also in that development or program delivery side. But I think for me, what it has underscored is the importance of, and maybe even the primacy of, quality and authenticity in the programs we're delivering, and then like in the relationships. And what I mean by that is, yes, it is possible to deliver things through virtual means, and it's also possible now to do things in person, which means we have to make a choice. But I have seen many poor presentations, and the format of change of format one way or the other wouldn't have helped. I wouldn't have wanted to do it
Oh
in
yeah.
person, and I didn't want to sit through it in a. I've probably given more than a few of those myself, to be honest. But and I think choosing the technology is an important part of it. But I am just so some of the best content I've seen virtually, and I've experienced it
Oh yeah.
digitally through video or through recorded produced video, or in some cases recording or a live streamed thing. I've seen really effective stuff done in person too, and in both cases, the quality of the information being shared, and again, the authenticity, either with the relationship with the person speaking, or like trusting that they know what they're talking about, or their ability to communicate, was like so important. And I think that the lack of contact, and some of it being mediated through the internet, etc., and us we had been doing webinars and digital content delivery back to 2015, when we had Adobe Connect or some Adobe platform that would go crazy and delete the PowerPoint like right before you were ready to start.
And it's still going crazy
Gotta
occasionally.
keep you on your
Huge
toes. Keep it
lag.
extemporaneous.
Yeah, it's a reminder that everything is permanent. Everything is impermanent. But and then so the transition to the Zoom stuff was a relatively easy transition for us. But the content that we put out during that period was really important. I think I'm curious how you all see what needs, other than our own enjoyment of doing it, which I think we all really enjoy doing it. Do you see, where do you see this podcast thing fitting in with that, in this environment? Like, do you I think our relationships and our banter and all that stuff and getting to know us is a big part of it, but I'm curious what you all think or what you've heard feedback on.
I think when we started talking about doing the podcast, to me it was like, what would I want to hear? And maybe that was selfish, but I also know that I have a posse, right? And in my line of work, my job is to listen to the community and their needs and wants, and a lot of the time, we all align in that way. And I wanted something like to that I could learn while I was doing something else. And I think that's where like the digital technology gets overwhelming. At least it is to me. And I know a lot of friends that I have is just like, well, yeah, it's great that I can go access that YouTube video. And don't get me wrong, I'm really glad that I can, go watch how to put irrigation together if I couldn't make the live. That is valuable. But I also have to seek that out. I have to sit down and watch it and make time and schedules. And for people who are growing or farming, it's just really hard sometimes to make time. But what you can do is listen a lot of the time. So you can be on the tractor, you can be weeding a bed, you can be doing that and listening. So I thought the podcast was a way to get into people's earbuds who maybe wanted to learn some things, and we do the best we can and try to give quality, when we don't have visuals available to us. But also just like, you're not alone in it out there, how we've made it where we want to throw a lot of science at you and facts and stats and awesome stuff, but also just the quality of life that surrounds gardening and farming and things like that. And some of that is building a community. And I don't know about you, I don't know what kind of podcasts you all listen to, but a lot of the podcasts I listen to, I know I'll never probably meet these people in person, but somehow I have like formed this like make believe community with a lot of them, right? And so,
I think it's real community.
yeah, well,
if you feel like it is,
then
then
it
it
is,
is.
right?
I
Yeah,
call them internet friends.
My internet
Yeah.
friends, we've talked about that. And
chatting online.
so it's
I'm speaking of which,
pretend like they don't-
I'm wearing
they
a
just-
bonsai shirt from one of my internet friends for the
Yeah.
first time ever
Yeah.
on the podcast.
First
For the
time
first
ever,
time, yeah.
But
They
I
just
wear it every
pretend like
time.
they don't know me.
I think it's a way to get to those from Extension Agent Alexis's point of view. It's a way to get to people who maybe don't have time to watch our presentations, to come to our presentations in some way. We can still get them that information. We can still be available to them, and maybe in a way help community build there, especially when we have local guests and stuff like that. But from like grower Alexis's point of view, you know, it's nice to be able to receive information like this when I'm doing other things, and I can chuckle at some, weird joke that Josh makes, and be like, why does he think he's so funny? And stuff like
It's
that.
not a
So
joke.
it's I'm serious, guys.
Who was joking?
So I think that is a benefit, is reaching audiences that we didn't before, but maybe also providing some sense of community, having, almost like you're in a conversation. But maybe that's just me and my avid imagination. It's not crazy. It's imagination, everyone.
I think something that kind of, to me, to what you're speaking to, is like so much of the value of like a lot of the work we do is informal. And it's hard to get across some of that informality and that off the cuff type conversation and discussion in a formal presentation or video. Like the thing goes on, and whereas we're just talking, and we're talking about stuff that's interesting, that's related to horticulture, and things come out where it's like, oh yeah, I didn't really realize that, or yeah, that's a good point, or I wouldn't have thought to bring that up, but I'm glad that you did. And if I had to make a PowerPoint about that, I would have left that out. But instead it gets to unfold a little more organically, which is really fun and cool. And yeah, I think when Josh makes a dumb joke, I think, how is he so funny? I don't think about why does he think he's so funny. I just,
Josh
And
so
that is
funny?
how
I
we're
mute
different.
myself.
Gerard Butler.
And that's where we're different.
Sometimes I just say stuff and people laugh at me.
For a long time, I wasn't supposed to be funny, but then I learned what they liked, and I started saying that.
With and at is a distinction and a fine line.
Indeed.
I made a Michael Jackson reference earlier, and Alexis, you said that, telling people you are not alone, and I was just like, you are not alone. And he had his like short hair, kind of like, I don't even know what you would call that haircut, but yeah. I'll be listening to that after the podcast.
For all the
He's like,
fans. For all
putting
the
that on my
fans.
list, things to do now.
And this podcast would be really hard to do. I know I enjoy having conversation with you guys, because that's a new format for me. And we try to forewarn our guests that come onto the show that if they're used to delivering educational programming in more of a scripted nature, you're not going to find that here.
Yeah.
As our frequent listeners very well know, we're very conversational. That's the format that I personally enjoy. It's not always the best method, but we try to keep things sort of conversational. It's one of the things that I do enjoy about the podcasting format, and have enjoyed kind of working with you guys. And that was different for me. I was more of the scripted, show a slideshow, which I've tried to get away from that delivery method as much as possible, because I've over relied on it over the years. But that's one of the other reasons why I've gravitated to podcasting, because it is educational programming, but more of an organic flow, more of an unscripted flow, conversational style. And that really appeals to me. And hopefully it does to listeners as well, because I listen to a different podcast. And that's one of the reasons that I like listening to podcasts myself, is that it's not as scripted. So hopefully that's a format that will allow us in the extension service to maybe, as Alexis said, to reach out to more people, more stacks of demographics that normally we wouldn't be able to reach more people's ears. with this delivery method. And that's what it's all about to me, is extending our reach and making sure that we're reaching out to as many different folks as possible. And the great thing about a podcast is, this is not just one county working here in Kentucky. Like, we tend to do a lot of our work in county parameters as extension agents, but there's folks on the podcast here, Josh and Brett, that are state level focused. And the podcast is great. It can go all across the state and outside of the state and on and on. That's one of the great delivery formats. But yeah, I guess it's saying all of that. That's just the style is what I've enjoyed being on the podcast. And sometimes things just come up that surprise me, because I never know what I'm going to say, for one thing. On this podcast, I surprise even myself
I shouldn't have
sometimes.
said that. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Can I take that back? Can we post produce that just right out of there? Yeah, and we never do. We just leave stuff in.
Sometimes I just start talking. I don't even know where it's going.
No, I just let
Okay,
it
Michael
go. I
Scott.
just let it flow. Yeah. Just start talking. Yeah, I noticed the Office reference. We're always sliding those in. Yeah, but it's been fun. It's fun. It's a building, it builds me up, working with you all. So that's a good thing.
You fill my cup.
Program. Oh.
Yes.
Programmatically, I think, we have to, in my opinion, in a 21st century context, you have to think about this. If I were going to be like a tech bro, I think I would say like an ecosystem of methods of reaching people, and they all kind of complement each other and feed into each other. You're not going to hit everyone with a podcast. You're not going to hit everyone with a lecture. You're not going to hit everyone with a publication. But you have to kind of offer it in these different formats and different types of different approaches to introducing topics, because you have different learning styles. To Alexis's point, you have different availability. If someone's in a beginning stage and they're in that, we talked about the Hort Biz quiz last week, or at some point recently, I can't remember when it was, but we talked about that. And if you're in that stage, maybe you go to all the lectures at the local extension office that they can put out, and maybe you are able to download and read all the publications. And I think in general, we've seen with the CCD stuff that the more diversified we are, not just in our crops, Center for Crop Diversification, but also the more diversified we are in our methods, you start to reach these people that audiences you hadn't touched before. And then they can kind of cross-pollinate into other things that are available, finding the publications or finding the Hort Biz quiz, or, connecting with their local agent. Maybe hadn't done that yet. And I think that, all of that's programmatically is a strategy we have to have, is that redundancy and overlap and different methods are
And
really
that's tough
important.
sometimes, blending all of this together
Yeah.
and not getting lost in the delivery methods. Because, at the end of the day, we're thematic. We're sort of based around programs. Our particular program that we're all interested in here's the many facets of horticulture. But it's easy to get lost in the technology and the delivery formats, because all of that takes time and it takes management. And that's one of the challenges, but it's also one of the opportunities to kind of extend your reach. So
And I think that's
managers.
That's one of the things about the technological thing. I think there are let's just say, I think that there are unimaginative people doing similar work to us who think, oh, great technology, I can just hop on a webinar and reach way more people and it's way more effective. And it takes so much more effort to be strategic and careful and do high quality outreach using the right tools. But that's our job. Like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's what we're going to continue to try to do. So maybe we can move away from the nerdy programmatic delivery, pedagogical reflections, and say, did you all have a favorite episode of the year? I did.
Shoot.
Sounds
was
like
it, Brett?
you're ready to go.
Brett is ready. He's going to name an episode that none of us remember. We're like, what?
He recorded one by himself.
He did.
Well, no, I mean, I'd.
Which one?
For me, it was the joy episode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think especially pushing you nerds and professional people in the direction of talking about more
Touchy
abstract,
Good
personal
grief. It's uncomfortable
things was so cool and touching. And I don't know, there was just something very nice about it. And it to me gave another dimension to what we're doing here. like a very personal dimension, and yeah, I just really appreciated it, and I hope to do more. I mean, this is a little bit in that vein, but I think it gives that, you know, the culture of horticulture, or the humanity of horticulture. I think, I don't know. It was just really nice.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
It was a good one, and it was different, sort of a theme, and that's what makes the
You're
show
muted,
interesting, because we do cover a variety of topics, but and then that's a balancing point we try to make, is between like homeowner and commercial production marketing, try to cover all this. But those episodes are so nice that come along where, you know, we kind of do the reflection pieces. I know a lot of that's inward looking, and we have an outward facing crowd, and that's fine, because we're doing it for you guys. But yeah, that was a great episode, Brett. I really enjoyed that, and sort of gives me time to get to know you guys. That's you know, kind of a fun thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of know you all, but I don't know all the dimensions, nor will I ever. But yeah, that was a cool episode, Brett. I agree. It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
there's a lot of people that you know pretty well, actually, and but you never have that opportunity to really.
What makes them tick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or to even ask those kind of probing
I'm not comfortable
questions.
with the way you said that, Alexis.
Good, you should be.
Makes them tick. Like you're trying to
Yeah.
figure us out, to figure out
How
our
would you
weaknesses.
make them
aggressive.
stop ticking if you were
Yes. How do you
hypothetically
make them
able to?
stop so much ticking? Yeah. Yeah.
TikTok, TikTok.
I wish that we had already added video to this podcast, because the looks we're getting from Alexis are pretty searing. The looks are, yeah, I'm getting a sunburn from the looks.
What did you have a favorite episode, Alexis?
I was.
Or did you have thoughts on the Joy episode?
I did, and I have forgotten them in my stress of I was muted when I started to talk, and then Ray started talking, and I was like, "Wow, rude!" And then I was like, "Oh, I'm muted."
And everybody was quiet, and we noticed that Alexa. I was like, somebody has to say something.
I was like,
Ray
la la
once.
la la,
Alexis-
and then
Oh
Ray
my
started talking, and I
gosh.
was like, "Excuse me,
You're like,
was I not
wow,
speaking
he's
just now?
he's even more rude than normal.
How dare you?" So I don't actually remember what I was gonna say about that episode, other than I do remember that being a good episode where I was like, you know, talking about my feelings and stuff. But
Feelings.
Cathartic.
Gloss right over that.
yeah, we could have.
So, what's your favorite episode, Alexis?
You know, I've really enjoyed our guests. I think it's been fun to have them on, and I was just looking through like our big list of all of them, and I have a couple favorites. I think one of them was like myth busting. I think was fun, because I swear, like,
Oh yeah.
it's like a big part of our job is just like people calling and being like, "Can I identify a male pepper versus a female pepper by how many bumps on the bottom it has?" And I'm like, so that's not the way botany works, but let me just go through that with you. You can't, in case you were just wondering. There's not a thing of male and female peppers. They all have seeds because they are a fruit.
That was the one that we recorded. We were all in the same office, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was.
Yes. Yeah, IRL.
Yeah, that was my favorite one too. Even though, like, I think the sound was kind of, I don't know how that came out exactly, but that was cool.
Yeah, we were all trying to manage the situation, because we found out that it's harder to do in person than it is remotely, because of technology. So we were all leaning in or leaning back, and yeah, that was.
We'll have to figure out a better way to do that in 2024, just for a couple.
Oh, I've already got some things set up if we want to do that again. I've already figured out the microphone stuff.
Well, there was like lunch involved. I think maybe that could play a role into why I really liked it a lot.
If there's food, I automatically like it more. Yes. Content of lunch and the content.
Other than the food, Josh, what did you enjoy?
About the myth making?
No,
one?
just about like what episode
your favorite episode
just sticks out to you.
I mean, it's a joke that I like to tell other people about, like, you know, this podcast, like that we had an episode that was, I think, 55 minutes that we talked about mulch. But that episode rocked. I liked that episode.
Could have been 3 hours.
It literally,
honestly.
Could have been more.
We had to get cut off because like mulch is real.
And I worried that we would not have much to say about mulch.
Yeah,
I was just. Wow, this is.
You know, I didn't want it to be too little, but I also didn't want it to be too mulch.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
People are going to have
4 inches of that is enough.
Start, a drinking game on puns of Brett's, I think. Just a shot for every pun.
Somebody's over there with a thesaurus trying to figure it all out. They're like, which either sitcom or, where did they come from? The references.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I like. I mean, I like all the kind of different ways and we explore kind of horticulture and people and all that. But I really
Mhm.
do tend to like the episodes that, by their title or the simple theme, we think of it as like something that how could you even talk about that for that long? But that it ends up being, this rich vein that we can mine and talk about, the practices of doing something.
I
Mhm.
remember what I was going to say. Someone told me horticulture is 90% people and 10% plants. And I was like, damn it, if that's not true.
Hort
Ooh.
culture. The culture of horticulture. See, that's us. That's
Yep.
Oh
us.
man.
Mhm.
Horticulture. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. You don't go into the plant world unless you're willing to deal with people, because
A lot
I don't
people
know.
have
Sometimes I go into
plants.
the
and
forest
live
not to deal
about
with people,
plants.
and there's plants there.
Yeah, but you can't make money living out there if you go into horticulture business.
Oh, yeah. So, okay.
Hort as a
Whatever.
culture, not a I'm going to disappear and become a forest witch, like a
Right.
swamp
I'm a horticulturalist and you
I
go
can
live
have
in a
culture
cave.
on my own.
Yeah.
I can be a monoculture.
Nice.
Well, I know Ray's going to share his in a second, but the people of the world, at least via Spotify, seemed to like the IPM podcast the most.
Oh
Mhm.
They
yeah.
listen to it the most.
Yeah, and I thought
Shout
that
out.
was interesting because I tend to
That
think
was
of
Jonathan
IPM as
Larson?
sort of a heavy thing. Yeah.
Was that Jonathan
That was
Larson, or
interesting.
was that us before that?
Hmm?
Hmm.
Was
Yeah,
that
because we
Jonathan
did
Larson,
talk.
or was
I
that
think
us
that was
before that?
I think that was a Larson episode. He could be the ringer that people are actually
People are
following
actually
Larson
just
around.
here for
Oh yeah,
Larson.
because of his
True,
in
and he could have
spot or
plugged it
whatever.
on his podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like Elvis of podcasts.
Many impersonators, only one authentic.
Yes. Lots of entertainment
Except no
value.
substitutes.
Oh man, if you don't
Ray,
listen to
did you have a
his,
fave?
yeah,
Probably, I mean, I like the culture pieces to the plant world. I always enjoy those. I enjoy, the ones, where we get to, talk about some of our own experiences. But one that I enjoyed just because it was a bit challenging and wasn't real comfortable for me, but a very important topic was the producer stress and burnout, because it was something that was near and dear
oh
to my
yeah,
heart that, our families experienced. But I enjoyed that one. It was a tough one for me because it was so personal. And it's not an easy topic to talk about, but when we first threw that out there as a possible topic, I was like, wow, this is going to be a heavy topic. I don't know where this is going to go, but we kind of talked about it and it was okay. But I remember that one specifically for the content in it, and it was challenging for me. But that's one of the ones that I remember that I guess not enjoyed would not be. Not be the right way to say that, but maybe was proud that
appreciated.
we kind of tackled that, because
Yeah.
anytime we talk about producer stress and burnout, I feel like we're tackling that topic rather than enjoying doing the topic. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
meaningful engagement with that
Yes.
very
Yes.
uncomfortable reality.
Mhm.
Just in case anybody's out there searching for these old episodes, that one Ray said the name pretty closely, so you'll be able to find it under producer stress, the stress and burnout. But the one that I called the joy episode was called "Reasons We Grow Other Than Money." In case you want to go back in the back catalog and listen to that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
one
great.
about
Deep-
mulch was
deep
like all
cut.
about mulch. So
Yeah.
It's like literally
Literally
mulch.
mulch.
Yeah.
yeah,
And we, it's a bit of fault with advertising. That is not all that we can say about mulch.
If you want
Yeah,
more
not
on
even
mulch,
No, we have more.
keep us posted.
it is all about mulch, but it's not all we have about mulch.
Maybe we need to bring
So
in
much more.
I feel we've had a
Mulch
lot
too.
of hort
Mulch
professionals
V2.
and people really involved in the hort world, but maybe we need to bring on someone who like more psychology-esque for talking about because I think
Like why I am the way
why
I am.
am
you
I
mean?
the plant
Or-
person that I am? Well, just
Maybe we get Josh's
I think
mom on
just
here.
talking about burnout, or like maybe thinking of it as a starting the season, how to set goals for yourself that are maybe more like from a mental perspective. And so we talk about setting goals for business. We talk about setting goals for production. Like that's something is relatively easy for all of us to talk about, but setting goals for yourself for self-care. And I hate the term self-care because I think it insinuates like, bubble baths and getting your nails done and stuff, which is, if that's what you're into, like I'm here for that also. But I think it's a lot more than just that. It can just be, maybe buying yourself a new pair of knee pads so that when you are weeding, it's not miserable. Like I think that there is, and we talked about that in that episode, but maybe we need someone. Mostly I'm just saying, can we please bring someone on for me so I can personally learn that and other people can.
No, I think that's
also,
a really
Therapy
interesting,
session.
really cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know they had, so like they had done, it's a little bit less on the I guess, I don't know. It's a little less on the proactive side and more on the let's bring attention to the issue, but they had the like farmer health well-being nurse person who was doing extension programming. I think she retired. I'm not sure if she's been replaced or what the deal is going on with that. There's been some of the expansion of the land grant mission stuff, and I don't know, maybe that's factored in, but I really like that idea as a concept.
I think going into your crop planning, it's like, to me, I would almost think of it as part of my crop planning, like things that, I can do to sustain myself to be more sustainable as a farmer. Because, if you think about those 3 pillars, people are one of them and you are a person. So you are not the robot you thought you were. Maybe those of you who are under 30, yes, you probably are still a robot. For those of us who've hit 30 now, we're like, maybe I'm not actually the robot I thought I was.
My batteries are getting wear on
Maybe
them.
Oil
can.
can.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't pop, lock, and drop it like you used to.
Nah, just drop it and don't pick it up.
Drop
You do
it.
pop.
Pop and lock.
It doesn't pop and lock back.
You do drop, but there's no
The lock's
next
broken.
step.
Yeah.
You don't pop again, that's for sure.
I think something I'd love to think about a way to bring in is the interface between agriculture and art. I think that there's a lot of different ways. Obviously, we have a cut flower OG on the line here. And I had gotten into some flower arranging and like the ikebana style of flower, and more minimalist kind of Japanese influence style. But I think Ray's wife has worked with kids and art in extension contexts, and now in other contexts, and we have some fine arts agents that we could probably pull in and talk to, and other. If you have other ideas about how to do that, I would love to hear. I've been realizing
fabrics.
just how important. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you think about landscaping, it's 50% art and it's 50% science. That's what I stress in that portion of the Master Gardener program. So much of that is just taking like color theory and applying it to landscape colors. I mean, yes, there is, plants and the way that we enjoy plants and lay plants out. And art and science is blended together so much. And that's one of the reasons it's weird that it's one of my favorite things to teach in Master Gardeners is landscaping on large and small scales. It's because that juxtaposition of art and science together, you use both principles equally. When you landscape, you use psychological theory with making big spaces feel small and vice versa. Yeah, Brett, that's a cool. Hopefully somebody that is putting that in the spreadsheet that loves spreadsheets, you all. Not looking at you, Josh.
Well,
Data man.
Side note that I've made reference to a bunch of times, but it was awesome. I was this past year, I was able to go to the National Bonsai and Penjing Museum in Washington, D.C. And you mentioned that kind of landscaping as this blend of art and science. They have these really cool trees but the hardscaping that they did with some of the paths. So they have like sections of the National Arboretum where like there's a part of it where it's like the Japanese collection. And they kind of have these curvaceous lines, and then you transition into a more like English style garden, and it's much more right angles and just that type of environmental influence. I don't know. It's just really cool. I think that would be a good way to, a good thing to bring in and talk about. So we got a lot of different ideas.
And if you have ideas, if you want to know more about mulch, we can do that.
We can
Josh
make
is
that
like,
happen.
please let me talk
I've
about
got one.
mulch.
The art and science of mulch. The mysteries revealed.
We all have a lot
I
of
think it's been
Mulch
I think it's
too.
been a pretty darn good year on the
It
whole
has
here,
been.
especially the time I've spent with you, wonderful people.
shucks.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of discussion on how we deliver this thing. Are we going to continue to do kind of the format that we've been doing a weekly? Are we going to add video? Has been a discussion a couple times in the past. In the future, are we going to make it onto like YouTube? And
Let's
we're
do
always trying to
live
morph this
episodes
thing.
with people, like calling in,
Oh, that's
like a call
terrifying.
in kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh man,
We
if
could.
there's food, I'll give it a shot.
I
It'll
didn't
be a
mean like in
buffet
person
with a
live. I
call
meant
in,
like
basically.
Zoom, like a Zoom live, and they can like chat box us or something. No,
I do
nobody
think that's
cares
a
that
good idea
much.
to go to live at events like the Fruit and Veggie Conference and record on site. I mean, if we can make the technology work, maybe at some of these events, because I know we'll be turned on in work mode at that time, and there'll be specialists there that we could trick into coming over, maybe with a buffet, Josh.
All right, now I'm in.
Now I'm
Gotcha.
sold.
Gotcha.
Josh, I'll bring some candy. I'll have peppermints and butterscotch in my purse, so you can have whatever you
Gravy,
need.
Bring gravy. Bring a little KFC thing of
double
gravy.
bags of
Put
gravy.
it in your purse. I
I'm
will
gonna
be
put
in on
them in
that
like
gravy
little
too.
like shots so that I can keep you
Yes.
around for
You're
it. Because if I
speaking
give
my
it to
love
you all at once,
language.
you're gonna go to sleep. Okay, so I'm gonna have to give it to you in little bursts of gravy.
IV.
Excellent.
Gravy IV.
I'm excited.
Gravy.
Next time I see
We
him, if I
started
don't
with
have gravy, I'm
moonshine.
gonna be
We
in
ended
trouble.
with a gravy IV.
I mean, that's a good way to bookend this conversation is moonshine and gravy. I like that.
Ooh yeah, sticking it up.
All right, I say you take us home, Alexis.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here for this kind of fun, jazzy episode. And we are serious when we tell you that we'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you're just going to get all the random things that the bald boys can come up with. And then me and Ray going, yeah, but like, what about? So
What
if you
if?
actually have some cool ideas or want to hear more about a certain topic, definitely let us know. And you can do that by reaching out via email if you'd like. That's hortculturepodcast at l.uky.edu. We link that in the show notes as well. Or if you're tech savvy and fancy and you like to be on Instagram, you can follow us over at Hort Culture Podcast. You can shoot a DM over there if you would like to. If you'd like to see like videos of something happening. So, if you want to see how Josh mulches trees and what volcano mulching looks like and how not to do it,
How not to do
let
it.
us know
Yeah.
that too, and we can throw those up online and make those accessible. If you're like, okay, I just really need a visual of all that gravy, that's cool. We can do that, but you have to let us know because I need something to fall back on when I tell Josh to do these things. So um, please let us know there. You can also leave us a review. It helps other people find us. I know several of you have. Thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate it. But anyways, we hope that as we continue to grow this podcast in 2024, that you will grow with us and that you will join us next time. Have a great one.